Hey, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. So, we are here today to celebrate that this is the month that War Room Warriors Worldwide Prayer Ministry turns 5. We are turning 5 today. And I just wanted to come on and I wanted to talk about the last 5 years. I want to give God glory, give God thanks and praise because this is truly all His doing, has nothing to do with me whatsoever. But I want to give Him thanks because it has been a journey and we have had some changes in these last 5 years. And I just wanted to come on and share what the journey has been and how we got started. And of course, I could not do this without my friend, my sister, administrator of the ministry temporarily right now, Tracy. She has been here since day one when I first started talking about what God had said He was calling me to do. And it is just so awesome and so wonderful and magnificent to be able to share what God has been doing and how we got started. And so I've invited her because she's been here from the beginning. So she knows the ins, the outs, and the changes we've been through. And we're not going to be long with it, but I do want to um I just want to help somebody. There may be somebody out there that God is calling you to start a ministry or a work, and you may be struggling with well, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure if I should do that, and I'm scared or whatever, but I'm telling you, it's a leap of faith that it takes for you to do it. And once you take that leap of faith, and you keep God first and you're trusting God, He leads and guides you all the way. I'm telling you, it has been a magnificent, I guess, ride, if you want to call it, but it has been wonderful in doing this. There have been some tears shed, and there have been some worrying and some wondering, and but through it all, God has manifested Himself so strong in letting me know that I am doing exactly what He has called me to do and what my assignment is. And we know the number 5 is grace. So I just believe this is the year of grace for the ministry, and that God is gracing me and the ministry um, to be able to do whatever it is that He is calling for us to do, because we all have a work. We all have a work. It may not be something like this where you're seen, but it could be something that you're behind the scenes, or you're out helping those that you run across um, in your everyday life. Whatever it is, we're all required to do the best of our job, to do the best of our ability at doing the job that God has called and created us, purpose and designed for us to do. And so we're going to let Tracy say a few words, and then we're going to talk about how this actually got started, the ministry.
Hi. Yeah, it's actually been a really been
Uh-oh.
doing the
Uh-oh, what's going on?
ministry. I thank him for it. It's been convicting. It's been pushing me. It's been a real iron sharpening iron type situation. But it's been such a blessing to see just the different things that the way that if you're faithful to the seed the Lord plants in your heart, he gives us the idea, he gives us the spark, he gives us the 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 desire, and
Right.
then what happens when you're faithful to do that. And so I thank you for the opportunity of what is happening through War Room. And I'm looking forward to all the more.
All right, all right. We're gonna dive in to this. So actually God actually gave me the ministry long before I started it. And I was kicking a bit, as they say, I was kicking against those bricks really hard. I was like, no, you didn't really call me to do this. This is not what you really want me to do. No, nope, 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 nope. I'm not gonna be doing all of that. It was just like a no, just a no and a fight against what God was saying. No, but I've called you to do this. It's like, no, 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 no. You have the wrong person. This is not me. This is not for me. This is not something uh that I know you would aspire for me to do. But um I would not be here if it had not been for the obedience of me in 2006 when the Lord told me that I could move from St. Louis and that I could move to another city with just me and my child and I, and only one other family member was actually in the city of Rolla where I was going. But because God told me I could go, I went. And the journey went like this. He gave someone a word to give to me in February of 2006. That word wasn't for that moment right then because God still had some work to do. But from February till June of 2006, God began to do a mighty work. And by the time we got to June, God opened up the door for me to be able to interview for a job in an office. And I had never heard of the city, Salem, Missouri at all. But there was a job opening. I applied for it. I planned a vacation in the month of June, and I never will forget my son, Betty Wainwright, and Nicole Irving, and we went on a trip. And we went to Chicago. I had interviewed at the beginning of June. So we were on the trip during the second week of June. On our way to Chicago, I get the phone call offering me the job. I accepted the job. What I didn't know was the manager on the other end, as she called it, she said, I heard you screaming. We weren't screaming, we were actually praising God. And we literally pulled the car over in the gas station parking lot and began to shout. And the people were looking at us. But God had done such a magnificent thing. I came back from vacation. I then got in the car with my friend Rachel Nord Russo and Nicole Irving, and we went to Rolla, and we found God led us to the apartment that I needed, that He had for me. We did what we needed to do to secure the apartment. In the meantime, I come back home. Everything in my house is packed up by my friend Nicole Irving, who was sad to see me go, but she packed up everything in my house. It was packed, boxed, and ready to go. There was another brother at the church at the time. He allowed us to use his truck, and we put all of my belongings in trucks, in cars, and we began the journey down to Rolla. But before we left, my friend Tracy, she had something else to do, but what she did was she came and she prayed for us on our journey. Yeah, she prayed for us in the front of my old apartment. She prayed for our journey. She prayed for God to do the things that He was going to do and has been doing since we left. She prayed a covering over us and the next part of our life that we were taking. And I'm here to tell you, God has done everything that she has prayed. And so that began the journey of God really teaching me to know who He was, who His voice was, walking in obedience. Now, there were ups and downs along the way, But I fast forward to getting to 2017. That was a journey of ups and downs and ins and outs, learning, being corrected, many tears, because God was doing something inside of me and changing me into the person and the woman of God that we see today. It wasn't an overnight thing, it was a process. So, again, anything that God is calling you to do, He's not going to just throw you out there and say, okay, there you go, do it. No, He takes you through a process and a preparation of getting you ready to do what it is that He's calling you to do. There are tests, there are trials, there are ups, there are downs, there are things that you have to let go of, people that you have to let go of. There are all kinds of things that you have to go through in your process and your preparation to be or do whatever it is God has called you to do. And so in 2017, in June, I have been telling Tracy, God is calling me to start this ministry. And what it was He was giving me a ministry for women. And it came from me watching the movie War Room. And I watched it 3 times in the theater. And in watching that, the first time I went to watch it just to watch it, and it blessed my soul. But then the last 2 times that I went to watch it, God began to tell me and began to minister to me about, there's a Miss Clara and a and there's an Elizabeth. So there's a Miss Clara for an Elizabeth, and you need to teach other ladies how to know if they're the Miss Clara or the Miss Elizabeth or they're the Elizabeth, because what is inside of you needs to come out. And so we started it. And the name that we had when we started, and I no longer have the logos for that, or else I would share them. But when we started it, it was War Room Warriors Ladies Ministry at first. And so we went with that for a while. And um it stayed there for probably about, I don't know, maybe a year. It stayed that it was just War Room Warriors um ladies prayer ministry, and it was that for a year. And God began to use me in different ways, to do different things. And one of the first things that we did was, God laid it on my heart to have a prayer breakfast. And at that time, I had the prayer breakfast, and I called on my dear friend and sister, Duchess Gibbons, to help me in decorating the place where we were going to have the prayer breakfast. And at that time, there were 2 other young ladies that were in the ministry, and we had just went through a prayer program that God gave me using the War Room Bible study kit, plus the 2 books that were written by um, 2 of the people that were in the movie. One was Priscilla Schreier. She wrote a book, and the book that she wrote was a book for women, and women learning how to pray. And then the book that the Kendrick brothers wrote was a book that actually went along with teaching or instructing you on how to pray. And so God had me take all of those and put them together and do a year-long Bible study. And so I did it once, the first time, with 2 young ladies. And in doing that, one of the young ladies, she was able to come up with a shirt design and designed our very first shirt that we had. And it was just so awesome. So I'm going to share what our first brunch looked like. And this was where we had our first brunch, and it was at a Capital Arts place here in Jeff City where we could rent it out. And so we rented it out, and my other good friend and sister, Marguerite Schleer, her and her husband, they were the ones that did the cooking for us that day. They provided the meal They prepared the meal that we had for the brunch, and it was good. I'm telling you, it was awesome. And so Duchess did the decoration. We had gift bags for everyone that came. Um, this was the setup. She made all of these decorations that are on the table, and they were pretty. And we had pads and pens and everything ready for people. Again, those were the gift bags that were ready to go the night before. And these were some of the people that came out. We had gifts that we gave, but these were some of the people that came out to the prayer breakfast. That was my pastor at the time, Pastor Love, and his wife, First Lady Love. They were there. Those were members of Apostolic Pentecostal Church of Jefferson City. And of course, my sister, Tracy, she was a speaker at the event. And I was so glad that she was able to come. And everyone was there. They talked about how they enjoyed it, and it was so good, and they were taking notes. And it was just a wonderful thing. Oops, sorry, y'all. It was a wonderful thing that God, he did that day, in us being able to minister to women. And on that day was the first time that I literally shared my story, which has now become a book. And you all know that was last year when I published the book. But that was the first time that I shared my story of what I have been through. Um, all of that was in that day right there. And I will say this. I need to backtrack just a little bit more. It actually started when we went to fire in January of 2017. And it was a last minute thing that Tracy and Shanetta and I decided to go through. And the thing about it was snowing like crazy. And so Shanetta began to pray, and Tracy and I, we all began to pray, and we literally watched God take a snowstorm and begin to move it. He moved it and changed the weather so that we can go. And that, oh, I hear you talking to me right now, God. I hear you. That was the first miracle that was the first miracle that I saw of us as a group of being able to go somewhere. But I had my own personal miracle that I got on the way up. There was a knot that had been in my back for, I think at that time, 14 years. That knot had been in my back since I'd had Trey, and I had an epidural. That was what was the remnants of that procedure. There was a knot that was in the middle of my back, and it had been there. And it didn't bother me, so I didn't bother it. But let me tell you what God began to do. God began to do a miracle, because on the way up, as we were driving, I was uncomfortable because the knot began to hurt, literally paining me. And Trace like, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, it's not. It's just hurting. It's never done this before." But as we're going, God is performing a miracle just because we were going. We had never been to fire. We just knew we had to be there. So we went to fire, and God did amazing things. In the midst of that, I began to feel the knot, and it felt different. And I know that while I was in the hotel room, I heard the Spirit say, "Begin to squeeze just a little bit." And as I began to squeeze just a little bit, whatever was in that knot began to start coming out. And I told her, I said, "Tracy, this knot, whatever's in it, it's coming out. It's coming out." And we went to fire, and we came back during the month of January. Every day I began to squeeze. I'm here to tell you, I can't tell you where the knot is, or where the knot, or excuse me, I can't tell you where the knot used to be, because I don't know where it used to be. because God performed a miracle and he healed the knot. It's gone. Whatever was in there, we went up probably over whatever it was. I think it was over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend. By the time I got to January 31st, the knot was gone. God had performed a miracle and removed the knot. I can't tell you where it is. I can feel around and kind of guess where it might have been, but it's gone. But God did so many miraculous things, and He began to deal with me right then and there during that month. You need to start the ministry. This is the name of the ministry. And so I was like, wow, really? And I began to share it with Tracy, and I was like, I don't really know. But I kept praying. But by June, I had made up my mind that this is what God wanted me to do, and I'm going to be obedient. And so I was obedient. And so I started the ministry. I didn't start the Facebook page right away. I didn't start the group right away, I don't think. But I started doing other things right away out of obedience. By the summer, there was a group and there was a page, and God was doing different things. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't have a clue, but I knew that I needed to be obedient and just keep doing what God was telling me to do. And there was some growing pains that had to come on because, as you looking and, well, my numbers aren't this and my numbers aren't that, and this is that and that is that, and the Spirit had to deal with me. It's not about your numbers, daughter. It's about you giving the word. It's about you sharing what I have for you to share. It's about the foundation that you've been given in your youth on how to pray, how to fast, how to read your word. It's the foundation that you're now building off of. That's what you're going to do. That is what I call you to do, is to teach people how to pray, how to get in there. And I'm telling you, it was rough, trying to get started, trying to make sure, worrying about if people gonna like it or people gonna understand. And it wasn't about any of that. It was strictly about being obedient and giving God the authority to do what he wanted to do with the ministry, and me just walking and being obedient. I did not understand a lot of things that we did. I can tell you, I didn't understand. I would cry. I would be calling Tracy. I'd be like, I don't understand any of this. But God would give her a word that would encourage me to say, nope, you got to keep on going. God gave you this. You can't worry about that. As long as you're obedient and you're walking in the way God is telling you to walk and you're being obedient, God is going to do what he's going to do. And again, it's that word obedient. You got to obey. When you obey, I'm telling you, I can't even explain about the word obey. But when you obey, God is obligated to do whatever it is he's going to do. Whether he's told you what he's going to do or he's not told you what he's going to do. If you're obedient, he's obligated to do it. You just gotta be obedient, and you just gotta keep walking, and you just gotta keep. If he say turn left, don't turn right, turn left. If he say go straight, go straight. Don't back up. Just keep praying, keep focusing, keep staying in his will. God has blessed us. So we went on. I'm gonna let Tracy if she got anything to say about that first year and that prayer breakfast, and it was so awesome. I'm telling y'all. Woo, bless my soul. It blessed
It
my
really
soul.
was. Yeah, it really was. I remember going up that morning, and I had because it was actually a church day for us. And I remember, or it was actually, I'm trying to recall. Yeah, it was we had something going on in the ministry day, and I had talked with my pastors about going. They were like, "No, absolutely go. And if you need to take somebody, we take somebody with you. Here you go." And it was such a blessing. But I remember when I got there, and I have some comedic memories, which I generally do, but it was really a great time because it's the beauty of going down memory lane with the ministry is it kind of walks me through some of the situations where I've had to grow. And but I remember that morning on my way there and thinking, oh, there's no way I'm gonna get here on time. There's no way this is gonna happen. And I don't know. That was the first time I've ever been on a trip where I'm like, I don't know how the time even worked out. There really there should have I shouldn't have got there on time in the first place. And but when I got there, I remember just meeting the wonderful those wonderful women that were a part of that first move. And um I think that might have been where I met our sister Tanika.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I believe it may have been. And I just remember just being excited about it as a start, and not knowing exactly where the Lord was going to take it, but trusting His word. That He's faithful to when He says you're going to do something. He's like literally really intends to do it through you. And that's probably more than anything been one of the lessons that I've learned, following your journey through this has really been what the Lord said He's going to do. He like really is going to do it. He literally will do it, if you're not afraid to do the things that He's called you to do. If you're not afraid to do what He said, He definitely will do what it is that He said.
yeah. He will. Tanika was an awesome speaker. Pastor Bree Love did an awesome job. My youth minister from
Mm-hmm.
high school, even with her foot that had been operated on, assistant pastor now, Deborah Smith was there. She did an awesome job. It was amazing.
Yes.
The two young ladies from the ministry, they were both amazing. Hannah and Sierra, they were amazing. Again, Marguerite and her husband Mark, they were amazing. Duchess did such an awesome job on those decorations. She wasn't able to stay, but she came up the night before. We put up tables. We did all this work. We did a lot. We did a lot of stuff, and it was just so awesome and amazing because literally it was a faith move, because I really didn't know how any of it was going to work. I didn't know what
Yeah.
God was going to do. I didn't have a clue, but I knew
Now,
that I had to be obedient. I knew that.
my signal has been in and out a little bit. Did you get a chance to talk about when you start with the two ladies?
No, I just kind of briefly started. I briefly touched on that. Um, but
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about it now. I kind of showed the pictures, but I'm gonna talk about that now.
Okay.
You can go ahead if you wanted to talk about that.
No, I just remember when we got one of the things I've always loved about you is, I mean, I hear what you say that you do, and I guess maybe that's your internal struggle. But what was interesting was we got back from fire conference, and I remember you talking about um what Lord had shared with you, and I remember your struggle with it. And I remember so much conversation about, I ain't trying to do that. I don't know. I ain't trying to do that. I ain't trying to do that. And then the next thing I remember, like it's Saturdays, and you've been meeting with these two women, and they're having some really like life changing experiences as a result of the time that they were spending in prayer with you. And I just but that's just kind of that's been the journey for so long. Is I ain't trying to do all that. I ain't trying to
Yes,
do
it
all
is.
that.
Yes, it
As
is.
you're
Yes, it is.
doing what you said you're not going to do.
Yes,
That was
that
the
is.
that was always funny.
Yes, that has
Is you
always
always
been
giving
the
yourself the
struggle.
grace
Always.
to feel how you feel, but at the end of the
Yep.
day, okay, Lord, I'm gonna do what you say.
I'm gonna do what you said, and that was the struggle. And God had put it on my heart. He really had. And my beautician at the time, I won't share their names again because I've already done that. But my beautician at the time was looking for something. And I was talking about, I don't even know how I got on the subject while she was doing my hair, but I was talking about, yeah, God has really been on me about doing the War Room Bible study. Since I've seen the movie, she's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Please let me know if you're gonna do it. Please let me know if you're gonna do it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna fast the month of January. I'm gonna fast about it. And I'm gonna fast about it. I'm gonna fast about it. And I'm gonna pray. So I'm praying fast. I'm praying fast about it. And I prayed and I fasted during the month of consecration. And the Lord told me, yeah, you need to start it. And so we started in that February. And her and another young lady from work. Um, I don't even remember how the young lady got a hold of me, but she was in a place where she had there was no other option for her but God. She had gotten to that point. And so I said, hey, you can come and join us on this journey. She said, yes. And so we went on the journey of how God took the 5-week program, which is the Bible study that you do that goes with the movie War Room. But we took the book that the Kendrick brothers wrote, and we took the book that Priscilla Schreier wrote. And I don't know if a lot of people knew that there was their book and her book, because I didn't. And I made it into a year-long program. And in making it into a year-long program, we were able to see God do a multitude of things in their life and in my life. Not just, their life, but it was in their life and my life that God did a multitude of things. And Tracy is right. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not. But when God sent them, there was no other option other than me to say yes and be obedient and go ahead and do do the program. And so it was a year-long program because we took each book chapter by chapter, and we learned so much. I learned so much. They learned so much, and they talked about how blessed they were. And one of the young ladies, she was not able to continue on with the journey. She got what she needed out of it, and she moved on. And I'm gonna pause right here, and I'm gonna put a pin, as they say, right here, and I'll say this. When you're doing what it is God has called you to do, the enemy will come in and he will try to make you feel and believe that, okay, well, see, you're not really doing what God told you to do because this happened or that happened. And that was one of the things that the enemy very strongly tried to bring into me, was the fact, well, yeah, you're doing this, you did this, but guess what? This person has left. So you weren't really supposed to be doing this. But I had to look past that and know that, yeah, they got what they needed, but there was still another person that still needed something. And so they were still there. So I couldn't just stop and say, oh no, I give up. I'm not going to do it. No, because the enemy's job is to come in and to try to confuse you, to discourage you, to limit you, and just to cause just regular old chaos. That's his job. But our job has to be that we stand strong and know that it don't matter what you saying, enemy, what you talking about, and what you doing. God has ordained this. God has authenticated this. God has said, this is what I need to do. And do it. And hold on. And don't let go. And that is where I am so encouraged by the other young lady that was still continue on with the program. She encouraged me. She was like, no, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. She's like, she got what she needed, but I'm still here. We're gonna still keep going on, we're gonna still keep going on. And then he had Tracy encouraging me, no, just keep going, just keep going. There's a blessing, there's somebody, she needs a blessing. There's something in it. Just keep going. So God will send you the people to encourage you so that you don't stop and you don't just go, I'm done, it's over. Because at that point, that is what the enemy had me believing, that okay, it's a done deal, you need to leave it alone, it's over. Yeah, you tried, but you know what, you wasn't really right. It didn't really work out right, it's not really the right thing. God didn't really call you to do that, da 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 da. All the negative things that he could bring to me, he brought them to me. But God made sure that there were people that could counteract every negative thing that he was bringing to me. And so we went, and the other young lady and I, we finished that program, and it was just so awesome to watch her grow and move on. After we got done, she had grown so much, and so she was able to move on to whatever God had for her to do. And so in that, God brought someone else um, in from that young lady's family to be with us for a while and to grow till it was time for them to move on to their next place that God had for them so that they could grow more. But what I'm telling you is that in each and every one of these steps, uh, the enemy has been there to try to discourage me, to try and block me, to try and um make me feel less than. But God has always been there and has always sent people to encourage me, to strengthen me, to let me know, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. You're on the path that God has for you. And God has just been so awesome in what he's been doing in this ministry. It has just been so awesome, and fire really helped me uh begin to know who I was, excuse me, what I carry, because I still don't really know all that I carry, but it seems like every day or more and more God is allowing me to find out what it is that I carry and why this ministry is needed, why he is um anointed and using me as a vessel for this ministry. And so we went through that. That was the first year of War Room. And so then after that, I started doing, I think, different classes or just doing different lives, talking about different things that God had for me to do. And so year two, we were still feeling our way, on through things. And we were doing different things at that time. We were um, posting in the ministry, in the group. We were posting on the page. We were sharing different ministries. But by year three, which would then be, so that was 2017 when we started, and 2018 was a year of doing a class, strictly a class. That was a whole year of learning and spending time with God and learning how to pray. And so then we got to 2019. That is year three. And so we're coming into year three at this point, should I say. And so in 2019, that is when we had our next prayer breakfast. And this was actually during the year that we had the tornado. And so the tornado, we had made all the plans. The other young lady was still a part of the ministry, and we had made all these plans, and all these things were going on. And lo and behold, on May 22nd, 2019, 2 years later, should I say, I'm sorry, 2 years later, tornado came through and it destroyed the place. where we were going to have our prayer brunch. And I was devastated. I didn't know what we were going to do. I had no clue. We got refunds from the other place because it was just gone. It was destroyed. Um, and there was nothing that we could do. It was just gone, and it was such a devastating thing. I had never been in a tornado before like this. I do remember when we lived in Raleigh, there was a tornado that came through Raleigh, and I was out driving around with my child in the truck. And his grandfather called and said, "Hey, are y'all all right down there? There's a tornado down there in Raleigh." I'm like, "Oh, Papa, I ain't heard nothing about no tornado. Me and Trey out here driving around in the truck." But God was faithful because he protected us. But the tornado that we had in Jeff City in 2019 was different because it was something I was actually a part of. But God, in his awesomeness, he protected us, he covered us, he didn't let anything happen. I heard the tornado coming, and I was in the bathroom praying, and I heard God just move it and send it in another direction. Damage was horrific all across Jeff City, but there was no life loss. That was a miracle because there was no life loss. That was a miracle. There was no life loss. But yet we had no place to have our prayer brunch now. What are we going to do? We have no place. The place that we had, it is now gone. It is now destroyed. What are we going to do? A lady that I used to work with offered up her church, and that's where we ended up having the prayer brunch in 2019. And it was Tracy and Tanika and myself again. And of course, I'm going to share Duchess came along and she worked with what she had to get the place decorated. We didn't have a lot, but she made do with what we had. Those were the bags that we had. We came up with a lot of different things to get people to at least have things to give away to people. And I just appreciate Nancy Weiss and her church for allowing us the opportunity to be in there. And so um you know, Duchess came. She stayed. She was able to stay this time. My nephew came down. He ran the camera so that it was able to be broadcasted live in our group. God ministered in such a powerful way. Yet again, people were blessed. It was an awesome experience. That was 2019. So then we jump over to COVID. We're in 2020 now. And COVID is
That
here.
one was amazing.
Yeah, COVID has now hit. And so what I began to realize is that even years or the years that God uses in the ministry for us to do studying, prayer and things like that at a deeper level. So all of 2022, we did the prayer clinic again. We did it again. And I learned even more this time than I did the first time that I did it. Um, and so that was what we did in 2020. And God moved and God connected me with my spiritual mother, Apostle Sophia. And when I tell you, God did some things, we connected when she had Be Thou Made Whole conference. And I had been praying for a long time. I was like, God, my mom been gone. She was my spiritual mother. She's gone. She's been gone. And I was like, okay, well, God, you haven't answered that prayer now, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna keep on going. But what I didn't know was God was training me and preparing me before she even came, because I was in a discipleship program for 3 years. And in those 3 years, God was preparing me. God was teaching me. He was teaching me about the fivefold. He was teaching me about what those type the spiritual parent and the spiritual son or daughter relationship is supposed to look like, how it is supposed to work. And I didn't know that then, but God was yet doing that. But I was just going to the classes, like he said. But because I was just being obedient and just doing what he would say do, and I'm allowing him to do a process that I didn't even know was a process, he was in turn preparing me for the one who was going to help me birth out all the things that he has put inside of me and continues to put inside of me. But I didn't know that. But in September of 2020, I was in the discipleship class, and Apostle Sophia, for 2 weeks straight, she was ministering about prayer. And the first week that she ministered to us, I heard the Spirit say, "That is what you're supposed to look like as a whole, as a healed woman of God. You're supposed to look like that." And I was like, and I just blew it off. But she came back the second week, and the spirit was a little louder this time and said the same thing. That is what you are supposed to look like as a healed woman of God. I began to listen. I began to look. I began to allow God to minister to me. And so, um, I believe her spiritual dad, he said that he was going to help her with the conference, because the Lord told him to, by sponsoring, I think it was like 28 people or something like that. He was in the middle of talking, and I had already did the instruction that he first said. I was the very first person, because as he was talking, he was like, "Oh, we already got one person that is already, while I'm talking, has already signed up to do this, to be sponsored." And so we began to talk. I began to message her, and I began to just tell her what I thought and what God was saying, what I felt that the spirit was saying to me about her being my spiritual mother and I being her spiritual daughter. And there was an immediate connection there. Immediate. And so we talked and we talked, and we I went to the conference and I was blessed, and we talked afterwards. And that is when she said, "I felt it too, but let us both pray and go before God and get an answer to make sure." We got the answer. And so in October, we talked about it, but on November 1st of 2020, we connected as spiritual daughter and spiritual mother. And when I told you, it has been nothing but a blessing. It has been nothing but continuous growth in things and areas that I had no idea that God was dealing with me in, or had put things inside of me. She has pushed me beyond what even I thought I was capable of doing, or even wanted to do, or would even allow God to be doing. But she pushes, and I continue to grow. The growth of where I was in 2020 is not the same as to where I am in 2022. Where I was in 2017 in June to where I am now in June of 2022 is a whole different place. It's a whole different atmosphere, a whole different realm. But it is because I'm connected to the right people and I'm walking in obedience. So, I know that Tracy is off right now, but we'll give her a chance to come in and talk about the differences she's seen in the different stages that I've been through, because I want to talk about this really quickly. these other things really quickly. So we went from War Room Warriors Ladies Prayer Ministry, I mean Ladies Ministry to Ladies Prayer Ministry. And that was sometime I think in 2018. But last year, God changed the name again, and it was changed to War Room Warriors Worldwide Prayer Ministry. And God began to say it's worldwide. But God has changed the name yet again, and the change will be made in August. But He's let me know it's not just worldwide. No, that's not what it is. That's not what this ministry is. That's not just where it's going to go. And so, out of obedience, I changed the name when he told me to change the name. And out of obedience, when he tells me to change the name in the next couple of months, I'm going to change the name. And I'm going to watch God do whatever he's going to do with the ministry in the changes that I'm making. But it's just amazing to see how we have come from being War Room Warriors Ladies Prayer Ministry to War Room Warriors Worldwide Prayer Ministry. We done that. And it's just amazing to watch God be who he is and do what he does when you are obedient. So we're gonna let Tracy have some few words, and we're gonna talk about the last major thing that God did that blew my mind. And we're just gonna be thankful and grateful for the 5 years that we um have been doing this with God's help and guidance.
Amen. Yeah, amen. And I do have a little bit of a delay, so I apologize. It's just something with my internet. But I thank the Lord for just the different, just all of the different phases have been really intense. And I remember before the adjustment was made to worldwide, there was a young lady who was reaching out for prayer from Fiji, and she pretty consistently visits the page as well. And I believe she joined the group as well. That she's a part of, or a part of the group as well. But it's just been such an interesting journey to see, you know, how the Father moves. And so many times, like you'll see, like there's something in the atmosphere, you know, prophetically. There's something in the atmosphere throughout ministries in the world, and seeing those same things happen. And many times, even seeing times when that prophetic download will hit you as the leader of this ministry, and then we'll start seeing, you know, other people from even larger, you know, different areas of the country, different areas of the world, even being to talk about those as well. So if people are looking for a place to be a part of, that will that definitely is going to be, you know, helpful in the journey of developing however it is that you're wired to function. You know, if you are apostolic, it literally what not a part of the apostolic denomination, but literally gifted to be apostolic. And it's a good place for you, because you're going to be challenged to function in the way that you're created, evangelist, a teacher, a pastor, whatever the capacity is. It is a place for you to actually put in the work as well of functioning in your ministry. But just over the years, seeing things, you know, move the way that they do, and even now, looking at the makeup group, where, you know, the people who are just really actively a part of the ministry are all over, you know, the entire country, um, and sent to various places around the world. And so it's an absolute blessing, to be here, to see it from, you know, an inspiration from the Lord into an actual, you know, moving and functioning entity that is, you know, advancing the kingdom, advancing the cause of prayer and intercession. So it is an absolute blessing. I have a guest I need to attend to. I'll be right back.
Please tell the bishop I said hello. Um, it is so I am so honored and so grateful and so thankful that Tracy has been able to be a part of this. She's been able to have a front row seat, be able to help behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. She's been able to do it all. And I thank her for that. I thank Prophetess Catriona, who I met in a network that I'm a part of. And she is just so genuine, so loving, so caring. God uses her in a mighty way to encourage, to chastise, to bring the word of correction. She is a prayer warrior. She has been a part of the ministry almost a year now, and I thank her for being here. I thank God for sending her to be a part of the ministry. I thank God for Pastor Demetrius, for just met him through Tracy. Met Demetrius through Tracy, watching him teach. And I mean, he's a teacher. He is a God-given teacher that talks about the word of God, and he talks about the end time. If you want to know what's going on in the end times, you need to be following Demetrius Whitehead. Demetrius, the disciple maker Whitehead on Facebook. He will just break it down for you to understand the end times, the scriptures, and where we are and what is going on. I thank God for ministers Jason and Clemecia, for being a part of the ministry. They are an awesome husband and wife couple. I just thank God for them every single day. I thank God for Intercessor Brenda, Intercessor Grace. They are such awesome women of God. Whenever they're able, they're here. I thank God for Prophetess Shanetta, who has stepped out and is now doing the work that God has called her to do. I'm thankful for the time that she was here with us, and she was the prayer director and the things that she was doing. She's co-wrote a book and everything, and I just thank God for her. Every now and then she comes back and drops back in, but I thank God for her just still even being connected. I thank God for Trey's aunt, Vernita, for just being a part. She's in the group, and she's receiving whatever it is she needs to receive from God. I thank God for the people that He has brought this way. I thank God for each and every person that is a part of our group. I believe there's like 59 people that are in the group on um, Facebook. I thank and praise God for the people that are following or have liked the page. I thank God for all of those people because they don't have to be here. They don't have to be anywhere. They could be following somebody else or being a part of somebody else's group. So I don't take any of it lightly. I do not take any of it lightly in the things in what God is doing where the ministry is concerned and the people that he brings across my path. There are people that actually go to our website and they leave messages for prayer. And I pray for them, and I try to remember to add them to our band group so that we can be praying for them. But I just thank God because nobody has to follow you. Nobody has to be a part of anything that you're doing. Um, Okay. Oh, and I want to thank Rachel also for being a part of our ministry and our group. She is a licensed therapist, and on Tuesday, we're actually going to do our 90-minute mental health reset. We're going to do that on Tuesday. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about the shootings that have occurred over the last 2 to 3 weeks. But I just thank God because it just shows that what God intended for the ministry to be and what God intended for me to do with the ministry is what I'm doing. And a lot of times people may not realize it, believe it, or understand it, but it's about the fruit. It's about your fruit. If you want to know if you're really following and doing what God has called you to do, you got to look at the fruit. What is your fruit? What is the fruit bearing from your tree or from your ministry? What kind of fruit are you bearing? Are you bearing any fruit at all? Because when you're in God's will and you're doing what God has called you to do and God has destined for you to do, then your fruit is gonna show that you're gonna bear fruit. You're going to bear fruit. And I am not boasting or bragging, but I know that I bear fruit because people have joined and have grown and have gone on to do other things. And that's a transition that my spiritual mother is helping me with right now, is getting used to that. So it's still growth going on, but I find it so amazing, and I'm so proud of when the people that come, they grow and they realize, you know what? Yeah, God is calling me to do this. I need to go do this. And they get up and they begin to go and do what it is that God is calling them to do. I love it. I love it because it is about helping people be who God has called them to be. And if they're an intercessor, it's about them having the tools to know how to be the intercessor. Because guess what? The intercessors are needed now more than ever. They've always been needed, but they're needed even more now. Their position has been brought up to the forefront because it's time to intercede now. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that, oh, that's me, y'all. That is me. But I want to talk about this. And I want to talk about how God allowed us to do our very first virtual conference. And Tracy can probably speak to this more than me, in what she saw on what I was doing, because literally I heard God say you need to do an intercessor conference. I had no idea what it was, what I was supposed to be doing, but I let Apostle Sophia know, and in our 101s, she gave me instructions. I began to do the instructions, but I had no finances. Woo! I had nothing. But when I tell you, when you're obedient, God will open up doors. God opened up a door to someone to give me information about how to do things. And that is none other than Evangelist, my sister and friend, Crystal Harvey. God opened her up to give me the information that I needed about do this and go here and do this and do that. And as I began to do that, God began to move. She gave me the information about how to do my own website, and how to go and get a domain name, and then she gave me the information about where I could go and find people to do flyers and to do all these different things. When I told you that God moved and did all of that, God did that thing. He moved in such a miraculous way because I was obedient. This flyer didn't cost me a whole lot. This flyer didn't cost me a whole lot. I'm gonna come back to that. That's the last thing I'm gonna talk about is the logo. Trying to get to the flyer for the speakers. The flyers for the speakers, it did not cost me a whole lot. And when I tell you, All of them said yes with no qualms. They said yes. And this man right here is my home pastor, Bishop Terrence Coleman. My God, when
Yeah.
your home pastor can see what God is doing in you and through you and supports you, I'm telling you, there is nothing like it. That's when you know you are truly walking in what God has called you to do. That's when you know it's God ordained. And I'm trying to hold back tears because that's important to me that I'm walking in it. When you have a spiritual mother that can see even what you don't see, can hear when you can't hear the things that God needs you to hear, but can tell you and say, daughter, this is what he's saying. This is how you do this. I've been there. I've done that. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. And then when you have all of these right here that support you, that are, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's important because that means they know that what God is doing, he's doing it. It's not you doing it. It is God doing it. It is him that is moving through you to do what needs to be done. So, as I end here and I'm going to give Tracy a few moments to say some words, I want to talk about the blessing that my son has been to me. And it's because of a word and prayers that Prophetess Shanetta prayed about us doing ministry together. I didn't know that my son was gifted to do graphic arts. I didn't know that. I didn't find it out until I wrote my book. But that really wasn't the first that I found out. Him doing this logo for my ministry that God gave me, that was the first that I knew that he had a gift that God gave him. He designed the logo. I didn't even know what that meant. And I said, boy, what is this? These people gonna think I'm doing some kind of witchcraft or something. And he said, Ma, it's the Hebrew word for prayer. Come on. Come on now. Come on. God took him to find that because I didn't know it. And I told him, I said, well, why don't we put the ministry name on there so people won't think I'm out here doing some kind of hoodoo or voodoo? Because, the saints of God are the most judgmental people I've ever seen in my life about stuff that they don't know or understand. And so he took it and he put the ministry name on the logo. I'm telling you, when God is intent on you doing something and you're obedient and you're committed, because that's what I taught last night, when you're committed to it and you're obligated to it and you're obedient to it and you're being intentional about it, then God is going to open up doors and make ways for you that you could never believe. He's going to do it. Why? Because you are doing what he's called you to do. And I'm telling you, it's been a blessing. I would not take back these 5 years for anything in the world. They have been a blessing. I have been blessed in being obedient. I have been blessed. I'm watching God now do some things in my life that I couldn't even imagine him doing. But it's obedience. It's obedience that makes God move. All right, we're gonna let Tracy say some few more things, and then we are going to just end it. And thank you guys for being here and everything.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just as you were talking about the conference, I remember there's a few things that seem to be pretty consistent when it comes down to events and how things will occur, distractions will come to try to and there's a pretty consistent distraction that happens, and it appears to be the weather. It seems like there's always something happening with the weather. When we went to
Yes.
fire conference, there was snow and ice, and I remember us skating across that parking lot. I know you covered that initially the first time, but when we got there, we got to town, and it was supposed to be like the winter storm of the century. And granted, it's
Yes.
Chicago in January. What you expecting? But when
Right.
we got, but knowing that, hey, look, we paid for this conference, and it was such a blessing because I remember when I found out Shawnetta was going to be there as well. It's like, wow, this is crazy. But it ended up being such a good time. And so because by that time she had already begun a faith walk that is phenomenal as well,
Yes.
with her transition from St. Louis. And so we
Yes.
get to Chicago, and we literally didn't run into any weather till we got to Chicago. We got Shanetta. Did we pick her up that day or the next day? I think we picked her up that day because we were going to pick up our pre-registration. We get there, we got to skate across the parking lot to get to the building.
No, we picked up the next day because we got there that night.
We got there that night. Yes.
Yeah, that
So
Thursday
we
night.
got to
We picked
skate
up
across
Friday
that
morning.
parking lot. Right. We got to skate across that parking lot just to get in the building. And it was like,
Yes.
oh wow, and it's like, yeah, no, but we just gonna pray for safe travel. So we come the next day, there's nothing. We come the following day, there's nothing. And it seems like it was just the beginning of a journey with not being intimidated by what presents itself. When you're on an assignment, and you just have to do what it is that you're called to do. And then I
Yes.
recall,
Mhm.
like,
As a matter of
even
fact,
the night of the, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say before we get you go to the next one. As a matter of fact, the weather changed so much till it was like springtime and folks was barbecuing because it had got that hot up there for that Friday and that Saturday, even into that Sunday. And it was like, whoa, the snow did not come back until I think Sunday night. And it was like, wow. It was just like, wow, look at God.
Yep.
It was
And,
just
and
like,
it was funny because I even clearly remember thinking like, okay, well, maybe this maybe it maybe it's storming in St. Louis. And I think they had gotten some snow in St. Louis, but just to
they
show the
did.
hedge of protection that was around us, they got
Yes.
bad weather in St. Louis. And once we made it back to town that night, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how these roads are going to be, but Lord, you've been good the whole way. And I remember
Yep.
pulling up in St. Louis, and I think it was like sprinkling rain. It was nothing,
Yep.
like you could tell it had rained or iced or snowed or whatever. And because
Yep.
I remember people were checking on us, like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
the weather was supposed to be so bad. And I'm like, yeah, no,
Yep.
we've been protected the whole way,
The
even to the
whole
point
way.
when we made it back to St. Louis that day. I remember calling back to St. Louis, and people hadn't been able to make it to work. It was awful. But by the time we came along, everything had
It was
melted.
all good.
It was all good. And
It was all
it was
good.
hilarious. But that's
It
been the
was.
journey of, if you
Yes.
just won't be intimidated by the wind and the waves, and if you will just step out and do what it is, Lord, if it's you, bid me come. Okay, well, then we coming. Okay, then yeah, we're going. I remember we went to, when we as a group went to fire in Atlanta, and financially there was no way for it to happen for me.
None.
There was literally no way. And I remember nephew being determined he wanted to go, and we were
Yes.
excited, amped about it. We got down to
Yes.
like the last few days beforehand, and I'm like, there's no way. I just financially, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And but the Lord moving in a situation for Prophet Shanetta, to where she was able to bless me to be able to go. I wouldn't have even been able to go. But at every juncture, where
He sure
we've
did.
been together moving, and it's just saying all of this to say there's something about connecting with the right people. I know you've mentioned that already, but there's something about making right connections, making the connections with people who will push you into purpose versus convincing you that there's something else that you need to do, that maybe you didn't hear. Well, no, they didn't hear. Maybe you shouldn't know. They don't have the courage to do. But what you have the courage to trust God to do, what you have the courage to believe that He will do. um I was shared some information with my pastors the other day, and understanding so many times we're hindered by what we know about ourselves. Like our
Right.
truth about us is
Mm-hmm.
hamstringing so many people from
Mm-hmm.
becoming who they are. But if you didn't
Right.
learn during pandemic who you are, if you didn't learn during the pandemic that the Lord has a call on your life, that there's purpose, that you have to push, that
Mm-hmm.
every day is not promised to you. So today is the day that it would make sense for you to go ahead and do what it is that the Lord has called you to do. It's been such an interesting season, and even thinking to the day of the intercessors conference, we're moments away from
Yep.
pressing go live, and the tornado sirens go off in Jeff City.
Yes,
I
they
mean, the
did.
devil is a whole lie. We're
Consistently
no.
for
And
30
so it's
minutes.
there's always, yes, it's just there's that opposition comes. And understand, as a people called to ministry, or just as a believer, we've
Yeah.
got to understand what perseverance really looks like. Like right
Yes.
now, light things move people. Like there are some, my internet connection is running weird. Maybe I just won't jump on. And there was a time when I literally would have X'd out a while ago and said, "Girl, go ahead, do your business." But as a result of my associations, as a result of leaning into my relationship with my spiritual parents, leaning into my relationship with my pastors, leaning into my sisters and my brothers and watching them walk through ministry, that you understand that opposition comes for a purpose. The problem is, brothers and sisters, your purpose is bigger than that opposition. Your purpose has more value than that opposition. And if you don't take anything away from the conversation that has been had today, and all the different memories that have been shared, it is, don't not do what it is that God called you to do because you don't trust you. As a matter of fact, don't trust you.
Right.
You're capable, you're gifted, you're talented, you have an anointing. Don't trust you, though. Trust the Father's good and perfect will and His ability to do it through you. If you lean on that, there's
That's it.
nothing you can't do.
Nothing.
But
That's
that's
it.
how prayer brunches come together, with no money, no facilities, no resources, no nothing. Just the Lord said.
That's it.
That's how intercessors online conferences come together. And you have everything you need. Again, no money, no resources, just people, and from the Lord.
That's it.
So that's all I have to say. My guest is getting a little rowdy in here, so I'm actually going to mute my
Come
mic
on,
and turn
Bishop.
my
Come on over here and give us a word, Bishop. Give us a
and
word,
just
Bishop.
say that I
Give us a
am
word, Bishop.
that I am so honored to be a part of what the Lord is doing through War Room. um my hope, my desire, my determination is to continue to see things grow and move for those who are genuinely called to this particular group or ministry, that you come on in and flow the way that the Lord has designed you to flow, and provide, find a place to get comfortable, exercising your gifts and talents. I hear some, well, I have a church, well, I have a pastor. That's not what this is. This is
No.
a fellowship that's about sharpening you as a prayer warrior, as an intercessor. As and if you don't have a church affiliation, then all the more reason why you're blessed to be able to be a part of a group with a leader that has a pastor's heart, with a leader that has her ear open, her ear sitting next to the lips of the Father, to be able to hear what she needs, what you need to hear, because we've seen people get connected to churches through this ministry. So please don't think this is trying to replace whatever it is that you have going on. But if you're called to the voice, if you're called to her sound and believe, you're in good hands. So you can't lose. It's a place for you to exercise your gifts. It's a place for your talents to be used. It's a place for you to come and hear from the Lord. It's a place for you to be encouraged and equipped to even augment and supplement what you have going on. So I thank the Father for you. I pray for many, many more years.
Thank you.
When I think about, it's funny, the image that keeps popping up on my screen, because my internet signal is unstable right now. But the thing that keeps popping up on my screen, it's kind of, it's shaped like this, and you can
Okay.
see the signal going up and out. And so
Wow.
since my internet wants to be crazy, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab a hold of that prophetically and say that your ministry will continue. Look at that, there it goes again. But your ministry will continue to go up and outward. That the
Woo.
Lord continue to
Hallelujah.
take your voice up, that he continue to take you to higher heights, that he continue to take you into realms in the spirit where you're able to pray down heaven to people who need it. That as people come, that wombs are open, because again, I hear the shaping, that wombs are open, naturally and spiritually so, that those who come, that they are able to receive a seed that will sprout into a harvest, that spiritual wombs are ignited, that babies will begin to leap because they connected with the work that the Lord was doing through here, that they came and either gave seed or received seed, and that they go up and outward to produce whatever it is that the Father has for them. I pray that your resources, your own personal finances, because of what you've sowed into this ministry, that the Lord continues to take you up higher tax brackets, up greater levels of finances, that he takes you up in your resources, that he begins to bring millionaires, investors to deposit, that what the scriptures say about him sending men and women to pour into your bosom, that it begins to happen, that as you continue to go up and branch out,
Thank you.
that he take this ministry right where it needs to go, to reach
Thank you.
that woman or man, boy or girl, that's on the edge of making a life-changing decision, a life-ending decision. That in the mighty name of Yeshua, that's Jesus, like you said, it ain't no hocus pocus and witchcraftery. In the mighty name of Jesus, that this ministry go forth and do great things. That the hallmark on this ministry is that it came across the feed for somebody who was about to take their life, that it comes across the feed of somebody who was about to walk away from their marriage, that it comes across the feed of somebody who was about to walk away from ministry, that it comes across the feed of someone who was about to give up, but they heard a word of hope and encouragement and they embraced it. And now look what the Lord has done. May that be your portion and your inheritance moving forward. I love you, my sister. May
I
the Lord
love you
bless
too.
you. You make his face shine towards War Room and
Thank you.
continue to provide everything that you need. I'll talk to you later. I love you.
Right. Love you. Thank you. All right. We thank Prophetess Tracy for coming on today. We thank her, even as my friend Tracy, for coming on today. And just we received that word. We received that word. That's word of confirmation again and again. And we receive that word and we accept that word. And what we know is that it is in due season and God's own timing. And so my prayer for myself is that I continue to be humble and that I continue to hear God and I continue to walk in the manner that God is calling me to walk, and that I continue to wait on God for direction and for clarity. And I pray that the ministry meets and reaches the need and the people that God has for it. Because I know that there is a remnant of people that I'm called to, that God is going to minister to. One of my passions, and I'm going to end with this, that God has given me, it is a heart for people who have attempted suicide and they've survived. I have a heart for that because I'm a survivor of attempted suicide over 30 some years ago. So God had mercy and God had grace. He was committed to me during a time when I wasn't committed to him. And I thank him for that. And so I have a heart for that. And I just look for God to do what he's going to do for me to reach those people. We are currently working on the next book, and it actually deals with that. There are so many books out that talk to before you commit suicide, or after a person has already committed suicide, the family and stuff. But nobody has really talked to the individual who has attempted suicide and they've survived. Nobody's talked to that. And God has laid that on my heart for that to be my next book, for it to come out before the end of the year, that's really going to talk and really going to help and minister to people, because you can only talk about what you've walked through and what God has brought you on the other side of. I couldn't talk about it if God hadn't brought me through it and over to the other side. So again, we are thankful that, whoever watches this and looks at it or whatever, we are just so happy and we're so blessed that God has allowed the ministry to be here 5 years. And we thank God for the years to come. And we're excited to see what God is going to do in this ministry and through this ministry in the world to help the world out, by using this ministry. And in a couple of months, stay tuned. We will have some changes that are coming. So thank you again. Bless you. And we just love and appreciate all of you all. Have a great and awesome evening, and have blessed and spectacular, a blessed and spectacular week.